Perfect. Right on time. Just like I like it. Now I have a little bit of setting up to do. Let's get this in the corner. Boom. Set that up in the middle. Got the chat where I can see it. Beautiful. And let me get my phone out. Awesome. Let's see if I can move that in frame a little bit. Get nice and comfy. Be here for a little bit. Well, it is 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, so we're going to get this live stream underway. My name is George Gira, and welcome back to Just G Live on the G and Finn Show's YouTube channel. This is the 7th of 8 episodes of pretty much an NFL preview show. We're going to be going through the NFC West today, and hope everybody is doing well and staying safe. I know these are very uncertain times, and hopefully I'm able to help you guys through this with a little bit of sports news and sports action going on, even when real sports aren't actually going on. It is sad that sports aren't going on. It's really disappointing, but anything I can do to help you guys get through this. So after the NFL is all said and done with, I put a poll out on my Instagram after the last episode, and it was pretty much unanimous. I think there might have been one or two voters who voted against me going on to the Major League Baseball, the MLB, moving on to that. After this, doing again something very similar to this, just kind of breaking it down AL, NL, and then doing a kind of team by team breakdown based on which division they play in, and then going from there, kind of re-ranking them, see how they performed last year and how they did last season, last offseason, last postseason. Go from there, re-rank them, that kind of thing. So we're going to be getting started on that probably next week. I know that we've got the NFC West today and the NFC East to do on Friday. So it's pretty likely that I'll have another stream for you guys on Monday and talk a little bit baseball. I love baseball. I mean, it's arguably one of my favorite sports to talk about and to really be able to watch. And it's just a lot of fun. But so that's kind of the plan going forward with this streaming during this quarantine and just kind of going forward from here. So we've got the NFC West today. The NFC West brought out last season 3 really good teams and one team that's definitely on the up and up, on the come up. It's pretty exciting to see this NFC division compared to some of the other divisions in the NFC that aren't very good or kind of middling for the most part. NFC East, which we'll be talking about on Friday. The NFC West has been stellar the last couple of years. Over the last couple of years, they have brought out a couple different Super Bowl contenders. Last season, the San Francisco 49ers played in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, ended up losing that game, though, to the eventual winners, obviously the Chiefs. And then I don't remember if it was 2 years ago or the year before that, maybe 3 years ago. The LA Rams were in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Patriots ended up winning that one. Pretty disappointing, though, for the Rams that season. And last season was not one of their better years, especially within the division. And I see you have a couple more viewers. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, it is Just G Live. I'm George Giro, and we are taking on the NFC West this afternoon. So enough about that. Let's kind of go through the records from last season and see where these teams were at last year. The 49ers had a great regular season. They went 13-3 during the year. They're followed up just behind by the Seahawks. Seahawks went 11-5. I mean, to have 2 teams in the same division have kind of pretty much outstanding records like that, it's pretty impressive. And both teams were good in the division. The Niners went 5-1 in the division. Their one loss, if I'm not mistaken, was against the Seahawks. I believe it was a late game that they, the 49ers missed by just a field goal. The Seahawks, the Rams both went 3-3 in the division, and they were all trailed up, though, by the Cardinals. Speaking of those last 2 teams in the division, the Los Angeles Rams went 9-7 last year, and the Arizona Cardinals went 5-10-1. Another one of those teams that got the rare tie in the NFL. So This has been an interesting offseason for the NFC West. The 49ers have made a couple interesting moves, interesting to say the least. They have lost a fair bit of talent, but at the same time, they've planned. What they've done is it seems like they took a lot of their depth from last year and they're trying to turn it into a little bit more premier talent, as well as maybe some future, some young talent to go with a lot of the core that's still with the Niners. And if their defense can be anything like they were last year, this team should have no problem whatsoever playing just as well, if not better, than last year, I should say. They have no, there should be no holds for them surpassing the success that they had last year. Let's see. If we're going to get right on into it, we're going to just move along into who the 49ers have brought in and who they're losing. It's a short list for both excuse me. It's a short list for both their additions and their losses. Most of their additions aren't actual additions. They're they're just re-signings for the most part. Defensive lineman Eric Armstead signing with the Niners long term, signing a 5-year, $85 million deal. That's $48.5 million guaranteed. That's a huge contract, especially for a defensive lineman. But he was kind of a cornerstone piece to their pass rush and how well they played against the run and just how effective they were at getting to the quarterback and keeping other teams from scoring the football. Now, with all that in mind, they had no problem keeping other teams out of the end zone during the regular season. When it came to the Super Bowl, though, the Chiefs kind of exploited them a little bit. The Chiefs really worked on their secondary pretty hard. But at the same time, it's that pass rush that's been bolstering that team for last year and the year before that. Apart from Eric Armstead coming back, other players coming back, center Ben Garland signing on a 1-year deal worth just $2.25 million, and then safety Jimmy Ward coming in, or not coming in, but returning on what could be seen as kind of a big money contract, especially for a safety, someone as quality or someone at Jimmy Ward's quality. He's re-signing with the Niners on a 3-year deal worth up to $28.5 million. And then the only other newcomer of note really is Travis Benjamin, the wide receiver, coming to the 49ers on a 1-year deal worth only up to $2 million. Now, he's essentially going to end up being a depth receiver, it's most likely, coming in to replace one of their losses, Emmanuel Sanders, who went to the Saints. And with that, that's kind of just a perfect segue. We're going to get on into the players that the Niners are losing. So, wide receiver, as I said, Emmanuel Sanders going down to New Orleans to play for the Saints. Tight end Garrett Selleck, another great football family, the Sellecks. Garrett is retiring. He's calling it quits. Another tight end, Levine Toilolo. I'm not sure really how to pronounce that last name, but trying my best with that one. Going to play for the Giants. This is the big loss they've had, was another defensive lineman. And again, that is a position of depth for this team. DeForest Buckner was traded over to Indianapolis to the Colts for the number 13 overall draft pick. Now, what's interesting about that is, with the number 13 overall pick, losing out on a guy like Sanders and losing out on some of these other tight ends, these other offensive weapons, it kind of makes them not as big a deal for this team, because at 13, the Niners should have every opportunity to go out there and draft one of the top 3 wide receivers available in this draft, be that Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs. I mean, even if they take that 13 and trade down for even more draft capital, if they're later on in the first round, they'll have opportunities at guys like Justin Jefferson as well. That's Justin Jefferson from LSU, who had a great, college season last year. And there, one other major loss is cornerback Jason Verrett, who, again, he's probably a replacement level player for them. Someone of his quality will likely come along in the draft or will come along later on in free agency, be that just kind of a late signing or through trade. So with the 49ers, it seems as though they're trying to take kind of the part of their team that was so incredible last year, not necessarily weaken it greatly, because that's the thing. Although Buckner has been awesome for the Niners, Eric Armstead and Bosa and these other guys they're not slouches by any means. They're all cornerstone pieces on that defensive line in that front seven. And to take a position of depth and turn that into, a piece for a position of need, that's kind of the whole game of being a general manager. And I think that's a great job done by, I think it's Lynch. I want to say it's Lynch is the 49ers general manager. But if they end up getting one of those top tier receivers or top tier skill position players with the number 13 overall pick, or with whatever they decide to do with that capital, that's just a great job done by the Niners. So with that, we're going to kind of move on to the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks have had a lot of turnover. There's a lot of players that are coming in, and there's a lot of players that have left or have not yet signed with either the Seahawks or with another team. And again, like I said, all these players are for the most part, all these guys are notable. They're good pickups. They're players coming in that should really help the team or kind of be replacements for players that have left. I see a couple other viewers have come in. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are taking on the NFC West, and we are currently on the second team of the division, the Seattle Seahawks. They went 11-5 last year. Just another superb year by quarterback Russell Wilson. I think he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I'm not going to say he's underrated or overrated. I think he's pretty just well rated where he's at. I think he's one of the better guys in the league. He's extremely mobile, has a great arm. His deep ball is probably one of the best, if not the best, I've seen out there. Maybe not at the level of Mahomes, but they're just probably about even in that regard. But it seemed like this offseason has been not great for the Seahawks in retaining talent around Wilson, which is kind of what they need to do. They need to retain a lot of the talent that gets them so successful or to the level that they play at, and kind of hold on to that, because without the ability to kind of gel and without that time to be with your teammates, with all this turnover, it really makes this team not perform probably to its best ability. With that said, its defense is not the same as it has been in years past, and it looks like the Seahawks are in a way moving on from some of these defensive players and impactful defensive players for reasons that could be either just they've made it known that they don't want to play for the Seahawks anymore, or that their contract is going to end up getting too expensive. So with that, we're going to get into the additions for the Seahawks. They're bringing in Philip Dorsett on a 1-year, $1 million deal. He's coming in to essentially be that kind of third or even slot receiver coming in to back up guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You've got Quentin Dunbar, who's a great cornerback, a great defensive back coming in. He was traded from the Redskins for only a 5th-round pick. I think that's an undervalue of Dunbar. I think he's going to be great, especially in the scheme that the Seahawks like to play on defense. Offensive lineman, BJ Finney coming in on a 1-year deal, or 2-year, $8 million deal. That's 1 for 4. Tight end Jacob Hollister is staying with the team on a 2nd-round tender. Bruce Irvin, edge rusher, is expected, according to Ian Rappaport. I don't know if his contract has been signed or not, but I mean, if it's coming from Ian Rappaport and it's coming from the NFL's website, I tend to believe it. Another offensive lineman, Cedric Ogbuwe, is coming in on a deal, and that's per Garofalo. Again, if it's coming from one of these guys, from Pelissero, Rappaport, Garofalo, any of those guys, I'm very much inclined to believe what they're saying. And here's one of the more interesting signings that they're bringing in. Greg Olsen, who left Carolina after being there and being the starting tight end there for, as long as I can really remember, has just decided, you know what, I don't know if this is the place for me anymore. I need to be in a place where this team is battling for success, they're battling for wins, and they're battling for championships. So Olsen signing a 1-year deal. It's essentially a flyer with the Seahawks. And last but not least, Jaron Reed re-signing with the team, staying with them on a 2-year, $23 million deal. That's Jaron Reed, a defensive lineman coming in, will bolster up that defense and that front seven, certainly, especially with some of the losses that this team is going to have. So this team, what's What's tough is that they're losing a lot of talent at important skill positions, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and they haven't done much to regain that talent. So we're gonna get into their losses, and there are a couple of guys in here that are very important for the success of either this football club or any football team. So backup quarterback Geno Smith, I think that's kind of a you know just a boring loss. Like it's nothing that will affect the team. It's a however you want to put it, it's a non-factor. That's not really losing much. Running back, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting for me in the fact that they haven't brought in a lot of people or a lot of talent to replace guys like this. So they're running backs. They're losing 2 running backs. CJ Prosise has been great for them. And then Marshawn Lynch, he only signed a 1-year deal last year, right before the playoffs. He came in, he, I guess, kind of did what he needed to do. He wasn't necessarily vintage Lynch, vintage beast mode, but, he was good. He was good when he was called upon. And then they're losing wide receivers Jaron Brown and Josh Gordon. The Josh Gordon story is one that it's a human interest story, really, at the end of the day. He's a guy that obviously has been troubled with both substance abuse and likely mental health issues throughout his career. He hasn't really been able to make it stick in any one place. And I mean, he even tried his luck at the Patriot way, if you will. And for him not to stick with the Patriots, and I don't want to say that he hasn't gotten support from teams or from, people outside the game, but for him not to stick there and he just got cut by the team at the end of the day. He got cut from the Patriots, and for them to kind of give up on a player with that much talent, I think that has to say that there's something more going on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily know about. If it is just things of him getting suspended from like marijuana testing, the new CBA that was signed, even though players want it to want a recount or a revote based on some other, between the lines kind of things, some fine print details in the CBA that others may not have known about. There won't be any marijuana testing anymore. We'll see if that affects his career, if he's able to get on a team, stick with the team, and get help that he needs. But apart from that, as of now, he is not signed with a team. Tight end Ed Dickson, no longer with the Seahawks as well. And now getting into some of these, the 3 offensive linemen that they're losing. Mike Iapati, it's interesting that he hasn't signed with somebody else. He's a good interior guard. He's been good most of his career. He is getting towards that kind of middle to late stages of his career, but that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have any gas left in the tank. Offensive tackle George Fant going over to the Jets, and another offensive lineman that I've already talked about, Jermaine Ifedi. We talked about him on Monday, going to the Bears, hoping to shore up that offensive line for whoever decides or whoever wins the quarterback job with the Bears. Now, when it comes to the defense, this is where I'm not really sure what the Seahawks are doing, because even with all the signings they've made, even with Russell Wilson on his 2nd or 3rd contract, making a ton of money, to lose this amount of talent and have really not brought in much to replace any of it it's kind of weird, because as far as I know, the Seahawks also, they don't have a ton of draft capital. It's not like they're going into the draft like the Dolphins. It isn't like they have a ton of money, or not, not a ton of money. They do have some cap space to work with, but it's not like they have a ton of draft picks to work with. So on the defensive side of the ball, they're losing defensive tackle Al Woods, going over to Jacksonville to play for the Jags. Former Lions defensive end Ziggy Ansah, no longer with the Seahawks as well. He has not signed somewhere else. Defensive end Quentin Jefferson going over to the Bills. Linebacker Michael Kendricks, who, again, he's a good linebacker. He's not with the team right now. I think that might be from his asking price. His asking price could be pretty high. And that's especially the case with Jadeveon Clowney, who he went from he went from the Texans. He went from Houston. He was traded up to Seattle. He stayed there. He played well whenever he was able to play. There are injury concerns with Clowney, but thing is, he is an impact defensive player whenever he's on the field. And that's extremely important to have, especially on a team. They know the importance of defense. The Legion of Boom just years ago, they essentially won the Seahawks a Super Bowl. I mean, as simple as that. But for them to kind of just move on from Clowney, his asking price, as far as I heard, he was wanting $20 million a year. Now, for a player with injury concerns, that isn't worth it. No matter how big of an impact you have on the field, if you're not playing all 16 games, every defensive down that you can, what's the point having you, especially for a cap hit that high? As far as I know, Clowney has decided to back down from that. He's worked down his asking price to I think it might have been from Rappaport, actually. He's brought that down to about 16, 17 million a year. But thing is, if you're not playing, you're not going to make money like that. You're not going to make Von Miller money. It's that simple. He's going to have to either take it down or just decide, look, I'm not going to play. I'm going to hold out. He could pull a Le'Veon Bell. Now, however Bell played last year for the Jets, whether that was from rust or just the Jets being terrible, having a horrible offensive line, yet to be seen. But Clowney should end up with a team. He's certainly talented enough for a team to make the move, pull the trigger, and get him signed up. And the only other big loss for the Seahawks is safety Tedrick Thompson. He's also not with a team as of right now. It's weird. What the Seahawks are doing is weird because they're not bringing in a lot of talent, a lot of top-end talent, and they're losing some top-end talent. CJ Prosise has been a good running back for them. Marshawn Lynch, even though he's essentially done with his career, for some reason he just keeps coming back, and I don't know why he wouldn't want to stay for an entire season. If I'm not mistaken, at the end of the playoffs last year, he did say, look, it's either this and we win or I'm done again. But this is coming from a guy who's already retired 3 times or however many times he has. So can you really believe exactly what he's going to say when it comes to his availability in years future? I don't think so. But just getting back to the Seahawks in general, they're losing a lot of defensive talent. Now, can they replace a lot of it in the draft or later on in free agency? Sure can. There's no doubt about that they can. But it seems like it's almost too much to try and recoup. It's almost too much to try and build back up from the ground up for it to be successful. But with that in mind, the Seahawks offense last year was great. I mean, DK Metcalf really showed out as a rookie. Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. And Greg Olsen might even have a revival year with Russell throwing him the ball. That's all yet to be seen. And I don't. This is one of those cases with the Seahawks where they've got a good coach, they've got a good quarterback, they've got some talent on both sides of the ball, but I'm still unsure. I still don't know where they're going to end up, whether they're going to end up again 11-5 or end up, taking those wins and cutting them in half. I don't think that'll happen. But I mean, we'll just have to see. Moving swiftly along to the Los Angeles Rams, and before I say anything, and I mean before I say anything about the actual players on the team, there's something else with the Rams I need to address. And it's that logo. If you guys haven't seen it, so normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to pull this up on my phone for those of you that haven't seen this. I don't really know any other way to kind of flash up a something or an image on the YouTube stream other than just show you guys on my phone. Their new logo. It's horrible. It's just gross. I don't know what to say about it. I'll see if I can get you guys to see that. But this is a team that is going through some change, and it's from a marketing standpoint, that logo is just horrible. It's not good. It's really, really bad. I think that link or that photo that I just showed you guys was actually from a website like putting up a petition saying, look, guys, this is bad. We need to get rid of this. Whether that happens or not, yet to be seen. I doubt it happens. But this is a team that's coming off a sustained success under new head coach Sean McVay. Last year was somewhat of a down year, even though they were 9-7. They were over 500. They played well in the division, but they missed the playoffs. They didn't even make it as a wild card, and that's something that they're probably not used to, especially now that they've given their quarterback Jared Goff all the money. This is a team that this offseason looks like it's trying to work on their defense. And even though they are losing some pieces in the secondary, it looks like they're shoring up their front seven and their offensive line. Now, these are the additions for the team. They're bringing in Austin Blythe, an offensive lineman. Dylan, oh, you saw that logo, right? It's bad. It's just not good. But they're bringing in offensive lineman Austin Blythe, coming in on just a 1-year deal. Michael Brockers, a defensive tackle. He was with the Rams. He was planning on going over to Baltimore, playing for the Ravens, but after a deal with them fell through, he's staying with the Rams on a 3-year deal. Edge rusher Leonard Floyd. This is pretty much what, I not good. But with Floyd, this is pretty much the prime example of a prove-it-to-me contract. Floyd was off the Bears. I guess, there were some things behind the scenes that the team just didn't like and decided, okay, we're going to cut ties with him and bring in somebody else. So Leonard Floyd signing with the Rams, 1-year deal, $10 million, fully guaranteed, with up to $3.5 million extra with incentives. So a contract like that is the Rams really telling Floyd, look, if you come in and you perform, we'll probably re-sign you. We'll keep you on board. We're willing to put up the extra money to keep a player of your caliber on the team if you come out and perform. If you show us that you have what it takes and you will give it your all this entire time, those are the things that the Rams are asking for. And in my opinion, talent-wise, he's got all the talent in the world. He has every intangible and tangible that you need as a good edge rusher. He's aggressive. He's fast. He's strong. He's got finesse. He's got everything that you need. But if you can't put it all together, there's no point in having all that at all. It's not like he's been hurt too much. He's been relatively healthy. And along with him, Ashawn Robinson coming in, another defensive lineman to work on that front seven, signing a 2-year, $17 million deal with the Rams. And the last major signing that the Rams are bringing in, and this is one I want to get a little bit of confirmation of something else, offensive lineman Andrew Whitworth re-signing to a 3-year, $30 million deal. And that's $12.5 million guaranteed. And just to make sure that I get this right, Andrew Whitworth, offensive tackle, good offensive lineman in his prime, but just to make sure that I'm getting this right, yes, I don't know why they're bringing him back for that long or for that much money. Simple as that. Andrew Whitworth, good offensive lineman, great offensive tackle, sure. But at this point in his career, is he really worth that much money? Is he worth $10 million a year? I mean, he turned 38 last December. Excuse me. Turned 38 last December, and he signed for another 3 years. So that's essentially saying that they believe in that Whitworth is going to stay at this level or even get better, which once you realistically, as a football player, once you hit 31, 32, that's not the case. That rarely happens. And I don't think an offensive lineman who has been as durable and has played as much football as Andrew Whitworth has is going to get much better. And they're essentially putting the money on thinking that he won't deteriorate further. He's 38. He wasn't that great last season. And this is a contract that gets him till he's 41. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, that's the thing. Bringing in Austin Blythe on a 1-year deal, sure, perfect. That's exactly what you really want out of kind of a stopgap offensive lineman. But as a guy that you're essentially putting at your left tackle position at protecting Jared Goff's blind side and saying, okay, we've had you here this long. You've performed for us this long. But even in the state that you are now, we believe so highly in you that we're going to give you $10 million a year and say, We think you have this in the tank for this long. And even if you don't, 12 million of that 12 million of that 30 is guaranteed. I don't know what they're doing with that one. I just don't see it. That's just me. I mean, is he a good offensive lineman? Sure. Will he consistently be a good offensive lineman for the next 3 years once he hits 39, 40, 41? Most offensive linemen don't. Not everybody's Joe Thomas. That's just the case. That is what that is. Now, the Rams also have had a couple losses. They have lost backup quarterback Blake Bortles. He's not signed anywhere. It wouldn't really surprise me if he doesn't end up anywhere. I'm not a fan of Blake Bortles. He didn't have what it takes to be the starting quarterback in Jacksonville. And when he got to the Rams, he didn't do anything to prove himself or to push himself forward. They're also losing out on edge rusher Dante Fowler Jr. going over to Atlanta to play for the Falcons. Linebacker Corey Littleton going to the Raiders, going to Vegas. Outside linebacker Clay Matthews, again, another great linebacker, well-known player, almost quote legend for some people, for Packers fans, is no longer with the team as well. He's not signed anywhere else. Cornerback Nickel Roby-Coleman went to the Eagles. Safety Eric Weddle has decided to retire. He's had a great career. Good for him. He's had an awesome career. Has decided to hang up the helmet and mouth guard. And then kicker Greg Zuerlein has decided to go to Dallas to play for the Cowboys. That's a weird loss to me because his nickname is Greg the Leg for a reason. He's been one of the more consistent and talented kickers over the last couple seasons. It'll be interesting to see who the Rams decide to replace a kicker of that quality with. And with those losses, it doesn't seem like the Rams have really... It seems like they're kind of hanging steady. They haven't had too many losses that are going to be unmitigated. Dante Fowler and Littleton. I mean, you're bringing in Floyd and Ashawn Robinson. Yeah, Clay Matthews and Roby-Coleman and Weddle, but Clay Matthews probably was not that big of a piece of that Rams defense. Roby-Coleman was, but I mean, the cornerback position, there's a ton of them in this year's draft. Eric Weddle retiring, you had to think that was happening sooner than later. Again, those skill positions on both sides of the ball this season are going to be, the draft is full of them. The draft has a ton of talent this year. Now, with that in mind, let me double check when the Rams draft. NFL draft order. Now, with this in mind, I think the draft is planned for April 23rd, I want to say. 23rd to the 25th. It is going all online. It's likely that I'm going to have a separate draft video or stream set up for you guys. That could be kind of a special edition during the baseball section. And let's see where the Rams pick. Oh, funnily enough, they don't have a first-round pick. They would have been drafting at number 20, but they traded that first-round draft pick to Jacksonville last season for Jalen Ramsey. Do they even have a second-round pick? Let me see. LA Rams, yes. The Rams' first draft pick this draft in just a couple weeks is at number 52. Will there be some talent available at 52 for them to pick up? Certainly. Will it be exactly what they need to fill out the rest of this team? Probably not. But with that all in mind, let's move Let's move on to the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been, I'd say one of the biggest winners just for a single acquisition this year. Just one, and that's a new wide receiver one. We're going to get right into it on that case, and that's... I don't think what the Cardinals general manager did was right. I'm not sure that Bill O'Brien has what it takes to be a general manager, and just for that reason alone, I don't respect what the Cardinals general manager did. He took advantage of that man. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, that is the Cardinals trading for DeAndre Hopkins. So it was DeAndre Hopkins, arguably one of the best wide receivers in all of football, and a fourth round draft pick coming to the Cardinals for running back David Johnson, a 2020 second round pick, and a 2021 fourth round pick. Like, if that is not essentially, grand larceny, I don't know what else is. Because you're taking a running back who last season did not perform, year before that did not perform, a player who has not performed over the last couple of years and has been injured as well in that same period of time for long stretches, taking a guy like that and a second round pick and trading it for arguably the best wide receiver in football. DeAndre Hopkins has some of the best hands and some of the best route running, and he's big and fast. He has everything to be the best wide receiver in football. Pairing him up with your rookie quarterback, Kyler Murray, and one of the other greatest wide receivers to ever play the game, Larry Fitzgerald, is coming back to the Cardinals next year. He sees that they, have the talent to succeed. Re-signing, 1-year deal, $11 million incentives. Larry Fitzgerald, even at this point in his career, you take that every time, especially when you're going to line him up opposite DeAndre Hopkins. Those are two guys that if you put the ball anywhere near them, they will go up there and get it. DeAndre Hopkins has some of the fewest drops in the NFL over the last couple of years. He is genuinely one of the best receivers in football. And for the Cardinals to take a player who has not performed and turn him into that has to make them one of the biggest winners of this offseason so far. But apart from him and apart from Fitzgerald coming back, linebacker Devondre Campbell coming to the Cardinals on a 1-year deal. Kenyon Drake, he essentially became the running back one last year while David Johnson wasn't playing. So Kenyon Drake got the transition tag, and the running back, Kenyon Drake signed the tag on March 21st. Like I said, Fitzgerald, 1-year deal. Marcus Gilbert re-signing with the Cardinals. He's an offensive lineman. 1 year, $1 million. Easy as you like it. Linebacker Devin Kennard coming in on a 3-year deal. Again, that's a really good move for their defense. And Jordan Phillips, another defensive lineman, is signing on with the Cardinals as well on a 3-year deal. Again, that's another really good move for that defense that is probably going to have a brand new looking offense, or a brand new, how do I put it, successful offense in front of them next season. Now, when it comes to the losses for this team, there are a couple. I'm not going to say that there aren't any losses. David Johnson with the Texans, I don't count that as much of a loss. I don't think he would have played much last season, especially after how well Kenyon Drake played. 2 wide receivers out, Damiere Byrd going to the Patriots and Pharoh Cooper going to the Panthers. I might have said that wrong during the episode about about Carolina. I think I might have accidentally said that Pharoh Cooper was going from Los Angeles. That was my bad. He actually went from Arizona. Tight end Charles Clay is no longer with the team. An offensive lineman, A.Q. Shipley, as well. Again, Marcus Gilbert is going to probably slide right into that spot. And then defensively, Rodney Gunter going to the Jags, Joe Walker going to the Niners, and Brooks Reed. All 3 of those guys essentially have been replaced by other moves that they've made this offseason. And the Cardinals are one of those teams that they're going to have a lot of draft capital. I mean, they're drafting in the first round at number 8. So that'll give them every opportunity to either go get another offensive lineman, get a big defensive piece, or even get a good wide receiver. So they're drafting number 8 overall. I don't think they have a second first-round pick. They do not. And then they don't have their second-round pick. But either way, the number 8 overall pick for them should bring a ton of quality, a ton of talent to the Cardinals with whoever they decide to draft. It's probably going to be an offensive lineman to help defend or protect Kyler Murray, I should say. And that probably going to be new look offense. And like I said, just from the Hopkins trade alone, not even dealing with these other pickups that they made, like Campbell coming in, Kennard coming in, and Phillips coming in, those 3 guys I think are going to make that defense and that front 7 so much better. It's going to be a lot better next year. and then putting these weapons around Kyler Murray, that is how you build around a young quarterback. Other teams around the league need to look at what the Cardinals are doing, and I don't want to say copy them, but do something like that. Identify your quarterback. Make sure you do whatever it takes to get that quarterback. Now, with Cardinals' new coach, Cliff Kingsbury from last year, they already had a young quarterback. They had Josh Rosen, and I might have talked about this a little bit when I talked about the Dolphins. I think he's had a hard shake at things. I don't think he's really gotten much of an opportunity at, in either place that he's gone so far in his career. But that's the thing. The Cardinals had a new head coach who identified the quarterback that he wanted to play for his team, and they went out there and got him. Perfect. Was he necessarily the best last year? No. Was the team the best last year? No. But now this year, they are identifying the talent they want around their young quarterback. They're doing what it takes to go get that young talent or that talent around your young quarterback. And they have a high draft pick to put even more talent around that young quarterback. Success in the NFL right now, it appears to be on the back of quarterbacks, either on their rookie deals where they're not making a lot of money, or quarterbacks that make the talent around them better, along with a scheme that makes those players around them better. Because look at it with the Patriots. What's made the Patriots so good over the last 20 years? It's been Bill Belichick and Tom Brady working together with a scheme offensively and defensively that allows Brady to play well in the pocket, allows him to make the players around him better, because if I'm being honest, he hasn't had a whole lot of offensive weapons around him his entire career. I mean, Gronkowski's been awesome. Gronkowski's arguably one of the better tight ends in NFL history, just in his time with the Patriots. He's had Randy Moss, but it's not prime Randy Moss. That was Moss after he had already spent however long in Minnesota with the Vikings. And Gronkowski got hurt pretty frequently. It was never any individual player around Brady that made that team good. And even though he was already a veteran, that concept and that formula is what made them so successful. Other teams, like look at, for instance, Philadelphia, or even say the Seahawks of years past. The Seahawks, when they had the Legion of Boom, when they had arguably the best defense in all of football. How'd they do that? They funneled all their money into that side of the ball and made that an extremely dominant force, identified the young quarterback at the time, Russell Wilson, on his rookie contract. Guess what? They win. They won. That's all you can say about it, because they did exactly what the Cardinals are doing now. They know their guy. They have their guy. And now they're putting the requisite pieces around him to succeed. And that's really all you can ask for. But with all that in mind, I'm looking at this division as a whole, and I don't see much changing. I don't see much moving. I still think the 49ers are definitely the best in this division. They have their quarterback. They're building up the right way, just as the Cardinals are doing. I don't know. I mean, I might have just focused more on the Cardinals in this episode because this offseason, that's what they're doing. Last offseason, that's what the 49ers did, and they had immediate success with it. They identified their coach, got him, identified the GM, signed him for the exact same contract as the coach. They've got their quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. They know that. They've got a strong defense. They've got a good front seven. They were able to, work with that last season, and then got them all the way to the Super Bowl, even though their offense really wasn't that great. Sure, Telvin Coleman is a good running back and a solid number one option. But as a whole, that offense isn't great. Yeah, I love George Kittle. He's probably one of the better tight ends in football right now. But who do they have at receiver, really? It isn't something where they have such a strong offense that it's very matched up to their defense. They just have a good team overall, and they're building up the right way. Seahawks, there's going to be a lot of turnover this year, it looks like. Especially on the defensive side of that ball. I'll look again where they draft. I don't know if they even have a first-round draft pick that, is their own. If they do, it's going to be late. Yeah, they drafted 27. I don't really see them being able to pick up anybody super impactful on the offensive side of the ball. If they go after someone on the defensive side, I'm sure there will be somebody left there because this draft is very much focused on the offensive side. But just looking at how everything should shake out, I've got the 49ers back at 1, Seahawks back at 2. And for me, the bottom 2 is where the biggest change could be. It's kind of a toss-up. The Rams have started to funnel their money into their quarterback. The other, pieces on the field might end up suffering because of that. And the Cardinals are building up the right way. And I know I've harped on that enough this evening, but I think that for right now, I'm going to keep it as it is. I'm going to say Rams come in at 3rd again. Cardinals, even though they're really doing what it takes and what they need to do to be successful in the future, I don't think that future is now. I think they still have a couple years, maybe even just one or two more years, if they continue to build the same way and try and don't try to rush the process. This is something that they need to take their time with. And if they do that, I see them, maybe even challenging for the NFC West in the near future. But that is all that I have for you guys this afternoon. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys have anything for me, make sure to throw it up in the chat. I really appreciate all the viewership, all the support. And like I said, after Friday is going to be the last one about football until probably the draft or just before the draft. And then after Friday, we will be talking about baseball starting next week. Now, this coming Friday is going to be about the NFC East. So if you guys don't have anything left for me this afternoon, I don't have anything left for you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys back here, same time, same place, Friday afternoon, NFC East. Don't miss out. Thank you, guys.